Hi guys, I had a lot of people swipe up on my Instagram story, texted me, and they were like, how the fuck did you do that Spotify Wrapped thing? So I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna be honest with you. It is hard. It's kind of like when you comment on a transformation video, a weight loss video on your For You page, and you're like, oh my God, how did you do that? And they're like, yeah, I went to the gym. And you're like, ugh, okay, well, I'm not gonna do that. It's kind of like that, where unfortunately it's a lot of boring frame by frame editing in Adobe Premiere Pro, which is what we're gonna be using, nothing else. There's gonna be a few tutorials linked throughout the video where I might dive into another app, either on my phone or my computer. And obviously I will be letting you know when that happens. But other than that, Adobe Premiere Pro till I die, love, like we're actually in a long-term relationship. And yeah. Okay, mommy's gonna do you guys a favor, and the template that I used, well, I made it, but it's the one that I used, that's gonna be in the description, is gonna be the template that I used, and the one I'm gonna be working from for the rest of the video. And right here is gonna be how I made the template if you wanna go make your own template. In your apps, you're gonna open Premiere. You're gonna wanna create a new project, right? And we're gonna title this My Spotify Wrapped, right? And if you hit browse, it'll just automatically save it where your computer wants to automatically save it to. If you wanna personalize that, that's fine. Hit OK, it'll create your project for you, and you're just gonna have this blank template right here. So you're gonna go into the import section, which is where you're gonna Command I or hit File Import. Command I is the shortcut for import. And you are going to go to your downloads, and right here is probably going to be my template, my personalized template for you. If you're using your own template, you're gonna wanna find wherever you put that. So for me, my template is right here. So now you have the template, but how do you get it over here? You're going to hit File, New, Sequence, and if you're coming from my template tutorial, you can skip this because obviously you guys know how to do this. So name the sequence whatever you want. You're gonna go into Settings. Editing mode is gonna be Custom. Then you're gonna go into frame size, and you're gonna do 1080 for the horizontal and 1920 for the vertical, right? And so that takes you to 1522. We're like, what does that mean? So we're gonna switch this pixel aspect ratio, is gonna be square pixels. Now it's 916, and you're ready for socials. 916 is the aspect ratio we're looking for when we're making socials, making content for socials, and it is also the same aspect ratio as the template I made for you guys here. So if you take that template and you import it into the timeline, it says the sequence don't match, they do, so you're just gonna keep existing settings, and you are going to expand that to match, and perfect. You're gonna see a bit of a cut now. While we jump over to the next step, what you do once your template is finished. If you wanna catch the rest of the video, head over to my template tutorial if you wanna make your own. So, you can see here now, remember, I'm gonna use these tools right here to toggle. So when you do something like this, right? Now I'm gonna turn it on, off, right? So when you do something like this, it doesn't delete any of your work. It just makes it invisible to you up here. So maybe I only wanna work with this and not this, so I can turn that on. And I can't see these, but that doesn't mean they're not there. So that's just a nifty tool. Another thing is I can lock these. So no matter any willy-nilly shit I do on this, these are not gonna change at all. It'll only change this one and this one because they're unlocked. It's just some cool features of Premiere that you will get used to. But anyway, I made all my channels invisible besides the main one here where my template is. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna lock my template because I don't want my template to move at all. What I wanna move is the words. So the next step is gonna be the words. So I will literally take you through what I did. I Googled Spotify Wrapped font, right? And the Spotify Wrapped font, according to Graphic Pi, is, drumroll, hello circular. And now then this website happens to have a download of Hello Circular. sometimes, you know, if you're doing something else, like with a different, if you're trying to mimic a different font, and sometimes it'll just tell you what the font is, and it doesn't give you a download option. So you have to Google like Hello Circular free font download. So anyway, you're going to hit download. I already downloaded it. And when it downloads, it's going to be, wait for it, in your downloads. Here it is for me, and it's an O2F file. When you double click an O2F file, it's going to open your font book. Here it is. Look, here's another font that I use a lot. Here it is right here. And if you hit the down, toggle the down arrow here, you can see all the options. So this is the one that I used for most of it. But now this means that this is downloaded onto your computer. So that's what that means. So what you're going to do now that you've downloaded Hello Circular is you're going to hit Command S or save. You're going to hit File Save. You're going to hit Command Q, which is you're going to quit Premiere. And you are going to then reopen Premiere because now Hello Circular is available for you in your Premiere. So when you go to make a graphic or make a text, Hello Circular is there for you. Now, UMD's rules with fonts and permissions and administrative issues is being annoying right now, and I'm honestly too lazy to deal with it because I have my own tricks up my sleeve that I don't really care because I can get out of it. If you have the same issue where now you go into graphics up here, so we have now conquered 3 of the editing planes. So we're going to go into graphics and we're going to go into the T right here. So you either hit T on your keyboard or you're going to hit the T right here and you're going to click anywhere on the screen and you're going to type test. And so I hate that. It's fugly, right? And so I'm going to select all of it and I'm going to go here. Now circular comes up, but only the sample, and it's only the basic one. And I don't want that one. I want the bold one that Spotify uses. I have yet to find a way to get around this block with this administrative block. So I will link another video as how I made these graphics. If you're able to make the graphics yourself and circular bold is coming up for you here, you can still follow along exactly the same. Just where this says Fonto PNG, yours is going to be a graphic. Where this, we're going to be working with this here. Just pretend that this file is your graphic. It's going to be the same deal. So anyway, I'm going to put it right here. That video will be right here. It'll also be in the description of this video if you need the loophole to get around how to make your own graphics outside of Premiere when you want to use a font that Premiere refuses to recognize. We're going to continue as if that you were able to make your own graphics. So here's graphic number 1, which I will make this visible for you here. It's going to say Akaio wrapped, right? You're going to want to use the bold, and you're going to want to use the color dropper effect. So when you make your text, right, so I'm going to use a test right here. When you make your text, you're going to select all of it, and you're going to select all of it, right? You're going to do the circular bold if you have it, and the fill text, you don't want it to be white. You want it to be this purple right here. So what you're going to do is you're going to select the color dropper, and you're going to not stop holding down. The color dropper is held down, so I'm holding down on my keypad while I use my left hand is holding the keypad down. My right hand is dragging around, and it's going to select this purple right here. You're going to release, and that is now, that is the Spotify purple right there. And you're going to want to do that for all of the, so obviously I'm not going to use this, so I'm going to delete this out of my timeline, but you're going to want to do that for all of the graphics. So, for example, this one right here is peach color, whatever you want to call it. And so another trick, and in that last one, I color dropped from the frame right here. But if I wanted to find this color on this frame, I wouldn't be able to, because let's pretend this isn't here. If I wrote the text myself and I was trying to find it, you'll see every graphic you make just uses the last one. So you won't have to color drop every time. If I was writing this text myself, and let's pretend this text wasn't here, make it invisible, how am I going to find it? So what you're going to want to do, make a new tab if you want to save this, or you can just X out of this one, doesn't matter. We're going to make a new tab, and we're going to Google, find RBG color on screen. What the hell is an RBG color? What is a hex number? I don't get it. I will explain it to you. All right, so we want that peach color, right? Let's go back into our Finder. Let's go back into our Spotify Wrapped, and here's that peach color. It is a little bit small. It's not a lot, though. So let's scrub through the video really quick and see if the peach color is ever... Oh, here we go. Peach color, nice and big. So we're going to Command-Shift-4. We're going to screenshot that peach color, lots of it, so that it's not grainy. We're going to see that that screenshot showed up here. We're going to change the order of our files to be the most recently date modified, so that our screenshot's right here. And we're going to Command-C or copy it, so you can, you know, right-click and copy, or Command-C. We're going to go back to this trusty website here, which I will link in the description of this video, but it's imagecolorpicker.com. And we are going to Command-V. You can see that the directions are on the screen here, which is fantastic. Now we're going to click the color. Oh my god, it gives us a number. It gives us a hex code, an RGB code, and a color name silver, which is obviously it's not silver, but whatever. What the fuck does a hex code? What is an RGB code? Well, let's find out. This is pretty exciting. This is pretty exciting stuff. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click this color right here. And you're gonna see here, right? Oh my god, wait, RGB, and there's a little number in the corner. Guys, what if we copy this code right here and bring it over here? What is gonna happen? So we obviously get rid of this little number here. You don't need that. That's the color that we want. How does that work? I don't know. It's magic. Every color, every little tiny color. If I had changed one letter, I will make this a J. All of a sudden it's a totally different color. Every little color in the whole world has its own hex code and its own RGB profile. I could have also worked off of this RGB, so you can see that red is at 231, green is at 173, and B, which stands for, you guessed it, blue. We're just gonna scroll over here. B is at 140, and you will see, oh, that's the exact color we want. And you saw, I don't know if anybody saw, that the hex code was changing the entire time that we were changing the RGB, and you'll see that this hex code here now matches the one that's on this screen. So don't ask me why, but every single color has its own hex code and its own RGB profile. The RGB profile, that's a little bit easier to grasp. Hex code, I don't know. Who decides it? I don't know. I don't understand. It doesn't matter. So those are two ways to find the color you want. You can either come over to this website here and find the hex code and the RGB based off of a screenshot of the color, or you can use the color dropper. That was a very long-winded answer to how do I find the right color for my font. Anyway, so we're working right now. We're gonna make this visible here so you guys can see. You have your font here, you have your text here, it says Akai Wrapped or whatever, and we're gonna go into effect controls of your text, and you guys are gonna ignore that this is here because we are gonna explore how to do this together. So I am going to get rid of both of these things so that we can go into it together. So this is how it's showing up right now. Now, you know this is not how Spotify does it. If we're gonna go back to our reference, which would be the Spotify Wrapped, the original Spotify Wrapped, you can see that Spotify is very funky, it's very fast paced, like, okay, like, it's nice, whatever. It's not bland like this is blah. So what you're gonna wanna do, this is the way I did it, there are probably a million other ways to do it, this is the way that I like to do it. So what you're gonna wanna do is we are going to edit the very beginning of this clip of the text, but I want to know exactly where I want it to wind up. What is the end goal? So you're gonna scrub over a little bit. If your text is exactly where you want it, this is where I like it. You're gonna scrub over a smidge. It is not an exact science. Art is very subjective. So this is where I want it. Scrub over a little bit. I'm going to hit the keyframe button on the scale and on the opacity, our new best friend, right? And so that means When we get to 0314 in the timeline, that is exactly where my AKIO wrap text is going to be. But I don't want it to be like that the whole time because this is very bland, we've decided. So I'm going to scroll over to where AKIO wrapped first comes on the timeline. So you can either scroll over by using this thing, or you can scroll over using this playhead. It's the same thing. This one's just zoomed in. And new setting alert. Okay, if you feel like I'm going very fast right now, it's because in the template tutorial, I really take it slow and walk you through like each little thing. So even if you don't want to make your own template, if you're feeling like I'm going very fast right now, it might be a good idea to stop and go watch the template tutorial just to get yourself kind of acquainted with Premiere. You're going to, now sometimes you like to do a little bit of math. You're going to say, I'm going to put it at whatever the fuck 36.5 divided by 2 is. I don't want it to be that small though. I'm going to put it at a scale of 30 and an opacity of 0, right? Because if you put it at an opacity of 20, I can see that. And I don't want it to just come out of thin air. I want it to come, I want it to come from nothing. Opacity of 0 means nothing is visible on the screen. And now as you scrub over, oh, look at that. Now it has that little flare, that little Spotify flare that we're used to. Now, as I said, there's other ways you can do it. Let's head back to our effects plane. We were in our graphics plane, which if you didn't use my hack and your graphics are from Premiere, you will be going back into that graphics plane most likely. But we do want to go into the effects plane, and before we were living over in video effects, we want to head into video transitions, right? And in the dissolve transitions, cross dissolve is an option. And so I wanted the big text to have a little flare, but if we make these visible here, I was okay with the smaller ones just being like that. Now you might, if you put the cross dissolve effect on your image, all of a sudden it's super long and you're like, I don't want that. What you're going to want to do is double click on that. It's going to give you the duration of the effect. Normally I just hit 5 and enter, and I hit 5 and okay, and I like that one. But you can play around with that. You can make it world is your oyster on that one. Anyway. And so that's the way that I did that. So if this title was not going to be wiped away by Spotify, I would probably do something similar where I would either put the cross dissolve at the end here, or I would do something along these lines at the end of my clip. But don't forget, we worked very hard to make this purple and green work for each other. So the way I did it, I just cut it, right where it needed to go. So great times, all around fun. That's how I did that one. Now you can see this one. If I click on this one, it's going to show you the effect controls for this one. This one is the same idea. Lower opacity, lower scale, it pumps up. Now on this one, I had it exit the screen the same way it came, but you have to be careful. I'm just going to zoom in really quick on this so you can either scrub this or use your pointer and middle finger. You have to be careful that this keyframe here, you have to include this keyframe here, because if I didn't, so let's say delete the keyframe here and I just keyframed it out at 0, that means in between this and this, it's going to be fading to 0 this entire time. So you need to make sure that you throw in a keyframe of 99.9 so that the entire time your text is on screen, it's not fading to 0, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, comment. I will try to make it make more sense. But anyway, we're going to stay in effects controls land while we watch the rest of this video, because you'll be able to see that it's the same thing in every single text. Every single text has the same exact idea going for it. Even more so, and then it's going to get a lot more complicated over in this area, because this is where, it's a lot of text, but it's all the same idea. Now, I will say you can make your life a little bit easier. Go back to our trusty cross dissolve tool and do it. And I will say, when you stagger it like that, it does have the same effect as the little Spotify, but here we're cheating. We're using half of Spotify's graphics and half of our graphics. So we kind of get the Spotify effect of the floating without really needing to go in and key each of these texts, because why? Oh, oops, sorry, Holly. Because each of these are not floating the same way that these would be, but it's fine because, and that's unfortunately, you really have to go in and write VP Finance, VP Risk Management, each person's name, and then go in again, you write it all again. But I will say the cross-dissolve tool saves you a lot of time. You don't have to go in and individually key each text. You can just kind of stagger it with the end. That's how you do it. So yes, each frame has its own either little cross-dissolve moment or it has its own keying. Once you've done all of this with the text, once again, like I said, personally, I like every step to be its own project. So you're going to want to export media, same as last time. And for me, if you look here in AKIO Spotify Wrapped, I saved mine like words only. That's what I saved it as. And it's all underneath the AKIO Spotify Wrapped umbrella. So I know wordsonly.mp4 has to do specifically with Spotify Wrapped. So I'm not going to save it, obviously, it's already a thing, but that is the next step. So then what I did is I made a new bin and I hit personalized, right? So then after I did words only, I made a new bin. It's called with pics, and I made a new sequence called with pics. You guys know how to make a sequence with pics, and I imported. So then I hit file import. I import the words only project, right? Throw that in there. Now, the first thing I did, you guys will see, I did the pictures as two different projects. So the first project, I did the pictures of the new members. Those pictures, I'm gonna make these video channels invisible so you guys can see what I was working with at the beginning. I knew that I needed pictures to cover these, and I knew that I needed pictures here. So I made a project specifically for those pictures because those were the ones I knew I absolutely needed to include. So let's make this first channel visible so we can work on this picture specifically and see how I did it, how I got it to cover that album. Now, granted, it's not perfect. You can make it perfect. I didn't wish I did. It is what it is. So we're gonna use the same tools we used in our text last time so I'm gonna make this invisible so that you guys can see over here what's happening and you guys can see why it's working. So it's invisible now. You can't see it on the timeline, but you can see what should be happening here. So if I scrub through here, you're gonna see the Harry Styles album sort of follows the same keyframing, but we need to be one step ahead of it so that you, the audience, never sees it. So the position, we're gonna start off lower, right? And it rises a little bit. And you can see here, if everybody pays close attention here, you can see that we keyed it so that it does that. Yep. And the opacity, obviously you can see the Harry Styles album sort of fades in there. And so we did two things. You can see here my opacity actually starts at 70. It doesn't start at 0 because I also, if we zoom into my timeline here, I put a cross dissolve effect on the image. So I did both. I double whammy cross dissolve effect and opacity keyframing. We're gonna make this visible now so you can see. You can watch it up on the left here. You can see, yep. So if I make all of these visible here, and I also, if we could go into any of these and you can see, you can watch up on the top left there, as I select each one, they all have a pretty similar formula for covering the albums. And so that's what I did for that. It wasn't an exact science, but also Spotify kind of lends to like a more abstract version of things. So that was fine. So on these ones, all I did was did the cross dissolve in the beginning, and I did stagger it so it would sync up with the words, but all I did was a cross dissolve in the beginning. But what I did do at the end is I went back to our crop trick that we used way back in the very beginning when we were making our template. We did that crop trick to avoid the purple and green touching each other, but what I did is instead of cropping from the bottom to the top, I cropped from the right. And so it gives like sort of a swipe effect. Now, granted, there is a wipe effect option that Premiere does for you, but it wasn't wiping the way I liked it to, and I just am a little bit of a control freak sometimes. So if you don't really give a fuck, just use the wipe effect, because it's okay. It's not cheating. It's just a different way to do it. I liked the way this looked a lot more. And same exact thing happened here. If you go to the end here, you can see in the beginning, it's just a cross dissolve, and at the end, you can watch them all wipe away. So that was one project that I did with these pictures. No, you'll see in the final version, there's pictures here, there's pictures here. I didn't do that in this project. This project is all about necessary pictures to cover up mistakes from the last one. So these pictures were obviously included. Now, this part was a little bit complicated and totally unnecessary, but I loved the finished product. So I will make this a different video. So this is what it would have looked like if I hadn't done the edits, and I think it's totally fine. You can see here, you should be able to recognize that with the text here, I used the cropping trick that everybody's used to. And you can see the little flashes of color here. I think it's totally fine. This is what my edit came with, which I just think elevates it a little bit. I loved how it came out. Totally not necessary, and so I will put another video to it right here, and I will also link it in the description. So anyway, so what you're gonna wanna do, after all the necessary edits, that is like, it's not really like artsy, it's like you have to put the pictures where they go. Once again, I exported that, and I think I called it like with pictures or something. But then I wanted to add more pictures. So I made a new bin, it's called more pictures, and I made a new sequence called with more pics. Shocker. And that is where we got into the thick of it. You will see with these pictures, you guessed it, we used the cropping trick that we love so much. So you can see, let's use this picture of Sarah and Co., which should be this bottom one here. Yes, so this picture of Sarah and friends, you can see that we went through and we keyed it. Remember at the very beginning of the video, I said you can either cut it a bunch or key the cropping. And I decided to key it because each picture is so small that it's more about the look. It's less about individual. And it's also, see, like, let's say that Sarah's picture needed to cover words. In this one frame right here, you would have been able to see the mistake. But this keying was more for artistic reasons and less for necessity, and that's why I felt like keying was the easier and smarter way to go. Now I will say I keyed the beginning here with the opacity and the cropping, but at the end I just went for my trusty cross dissolve transition. You don't have to be fancy with everything. Now this one I also keyed. You can see I keyed it with the trail of 2021, but then at the end, nice cross dissolve. I use transitions from Premiere for most of, so this is why this is beautiful. So remember when we had these 5 pictures? These 5 pictures were taking up the first 5 channels, and these pictures overlay these 5 pictures, but I don't have to worry about moving the 5 necessary pictures. That's why it's nice to have a new project, because these 5 pictures are necessary for blocking my top 5 albums from my personal Spotify Wrapped. So I need those pictures to say exactly where they are. And so that's why it's great that I exported it and nothing can fuck that up anymore. Like that's there. And I can do I can play around with these pictures and not worry about ruining anything that's already on the project. Anyway, you'll see here that I did use a lot of Spotify's auto transitions, because when you adjust the speed to be quick, which is all you, once again, you just double click 5, okay, that's, it can still have that spunky, like fast-paced Spotify look. And I will say that I felt like it was a little bit awkward. I'll go back to my other project, which you can toggle between projects too, up here in these project tabs, or sequence tabs, sorry. You can toggle between sequences. I felt like it was a little bit awkward. The screen would be black and then all of a sudden it was green. So I found the flip effect here, which I'm pretty sure is in the 3D motion. It's in flip over. And I just like the way that it helps the transition between colors without making it awkward, you know? So you'll see for a lot of my picture photo dumps in between slides, you can see here I'm using a lot of Spotify. I didn't use a ton of keying. It was a lot of Spotify's auto transitions. Now I will say that a way to get like the spunky Spotify look is I just made each of these transitions a millisecond different from each other in length. So you can see here, this one was 0.6 and this one was 0.5, and you know, so on. And then when they all leave the screen, it just gives it, I don't know, that extra little Spotify, like quirky, whatever. So I know I said millisecond, and I know there's a lot of zeros here. Literally all you do is hit 6, okay. If I did 6, if I went and did 6D, very different. It's just a 6. If I do one numeral, that implies that there's a bunch of zeros in the beginning of it. And you can see I did the same thing with this wipe away transition. And literally, it just play around with all of them. The only thing I would stay away from is page peel, because page peel incorporates the entire screen. And when you're trying to transition away from one picture, when there's like a bunch of other pictures and a whole nother thing happening on the screen behind it, page peel can kind of distract. You can see here too, Iris Diamond. I just, all you do is, and in the wipe away, you just change the transition times by a few milliseconds. Now this one I did this is the last example of keying is I went frame by frame, and I went frame by frame, and I looked and saw when the green little train here was gonna pass through their picture. As soon as I saw it passing through, the opacity keyframe started to shift down, and our trusty best friend, the crop tool, started to fade the picture out. And I did the same thing. If you look at the top here, same thing. And that is with the more pictures. Now we see that it's 1.5 minutes. So literally all I did, this is why it's fun. There's no audio yet. All you're gonna do is you're gonna export that with more pictures, and you're going to start a new sequence, which I called faster. Shocker. I'm pretty sure I made a new bin for it too. Bin faster. So I made a new sequence called faster, and all I did is you hit Command R, or you can right click and you can go to speed duration here. Command R, and I made the speed like 1. I just basically like adjusted the speed until I got to a minute. So I think the speed wound up being something like 140 or something like that. So anyway, that's the original version sped up by 140. So I think the speed was around 140 or whatever. In this version, the header and the footer that was like such an eyesore before is gone. What you're going to do is you are going to take your 1 minute version, which for me it's this right here. You're going to drag the video only, and you're going to throw it on top here. I'll do it with you guys. So you're going to throw it. I'm going to get rid of everything in the timeline here so you guys, we can do this together. So you're going to drag this into V2. This part's important. You are going to go back to, she's back, our best friend, the crop tool, but we're not doing any keying. We are literally just using the crop tool for what it's meant for. So I'm going to use the top here, and I'm going to move the screen a little. Where is she? Okay, I'm going to move the screen a little until I feel like it's cropped, which for me, that is 8%. I am then going to 8% the bottom as well, and then I'm going to do a trick that is super fun. I'm going to deselect everything, which just means like click like blank space, so nothing's selected. I'm going to hit the option button, hold that down. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to drag it into V1, and that doubled it. I know, magic is great. So now when I double click here, it's double clicking V2, and I can't get to my V1. I don't want to. So 2 options. You can either lock V2 so that it can't be edited, and now you have V1, or what you can do is you can just go into the scale option right here. What you're gonna do is you're gonna blow it up to maybe like 120, 135. And you're gonna see here, this is kind of like distracting, like especially when it comes to the pictures. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna make sure that the crop is gone from the gone from the search, because if you're searching crop and then you try to go into anything else, it's only going to show you the word crop, which only appears once. So what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to go into your video effects. Crop is gone, and you're gonna want to go into blur and sharpen. Now, I personally like this blur setting. You can really use any of the blur settings. Don't use sharpen. That is the opposite of blur. So now you're going to want to take your Gaussian blur, which is how I pronounce it in my head, and you're going to want to drag it onto the V1, not the V2, the V1. Now you're going to want to go into V1's controls, effect controls, and you should there she is, the blur is there, and you're going to want to blur it. I super chill. I did mine at like 75, and now you see that it has this effect right here. Now, I will explain two things to you. First thing is, the reason that I did the option and the scroll down is because you will see here that means that the effects on the original one got copied onto the V1 version, so you can see that it's already cropped for you. If you wanted to import it again, you'd have to do the cropping again, which is fine. Just don't forget that you cropped the first one, so you have to crop the second one. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find where you want your audio to start. So like, let's give it a listen. All right, let's have it start right there. But if I drag my audio over, it's gonna start from the very beginning of the song, which is not what I want. So what we're gonna do is we've selected the audio, we're playing with the audio in here, we're gonna hit the I button, which I stands for import, we have come to realize. Now, when I drag my audio over here, it starts from where I wanted it to start in the thing. Another thing you can do is you can hit the period button, which, remember, we talked about this a long time ago. The period button overwrites what you have. It does not push anything away. If you use the comma button, your video would have gone away with your audio. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna hit the period button to overwrite. Now, you have to be careful with the period button, because let's say I had gone with something that has video and audio. If I hit the period button, all of a sudden, all the work we just did is gone. We're gonna hit Command Z, we don't want that. We are just gonna either hit the period button with our audio, or we are gonna drag the audio over from our imported spot into the thing, and you should be all set with your project. Maybe give it a last look over, but you should be done. I am sorry for how long that was, but I wanted to be super specific and thorough, because I know for a lot of you have no idea what the fuck you're doing with Premiere, which is totally fine. I've been using editing software just like for fun since I was literally like 8 years old on Windows Movie Maker, and I've been learning this in school since like freshman year of high school. So I just wanted to be super thorough about each step, because I didn't want someone to watch me do one thing and be like, wait, how did you get there? In future tutorials, I'll try to be a little bit briefer, because I will, as we move forward, I will assume that you are gonna take the skills that I gave you in this, so we can apply them into the next video. Hope everybody enjoyed that. Comment any questions that you have, and yeah, this video is going to be one that you're going to refer back to. If you give a shit about any of this, this is going to be the one that you refer back to, because I will be referencing this video in the future. So you better have liked it. If you hated it, because you're going to be watching this a lot. So